Okay, today I'm going to do an After Effects tutorial on showing how to kind of replace eyes if you're doing anything that's like zombie eyes, or this in this instance we have a project where it's kind of a version of the Telltale Heart, and we've got two different clips here where this guy's eye is seen, and this is done so the way I'm showing this is so you don't actually have to get like the contacts. It can get kind of difficult if you have a ton of shots to do. You might just want to get like the contacts, but in this shot we've shot this so you can see his eyes clearly. This is one instance where the guy's eye is first seen in the story, and the eye that drives the other man mad and ends up leading him to kill this guy here. Anyway, we've got this guy's eye here, and when it's first seen. Then another instance in the movie, right when he's asleep and he's going to be killed, and he opens his eye and you see his eye again, and you see a cataract here and a cataract here as well. So you see the cataracts on just the one eye, and that's what we're gonna show today. So so I'm going to send this one over to After Effects here from Premiere from our edit. Okay, I've sent this over to After Effects now, saved it. And I'm going to bring in, so right now I've got the composition up here, and I've got the eye clip in there, the same edit that we have in the timeline back in Premiere. I'm going to import a shot of an eye that, now you can create your own eye. If you want to do a Photoshop eye, you can. I've just grabbed a still photo of an eye right here of a cataract, and we're going to put that on top of it. Now that's quite large. So I'm going to scale that down right there and hit S for scale on that cataract and bring it down. But what we're going to do is put this eye, replace it with his eye, cut that out and put it on top of his eye right there. So let's get started on that. I'm going to turn off my cataract layer right there, and I'm going to go back to this gentleman here, and I'm going to go to the very end, because at the beginning he has his eyes covered. I'm going to do some motion tracking to track that eye to his eye here, to cover his eye up there. So I'm going to go to the end and track backwards, because he covers his eyes with his hands. He's rubbing his eyes. So I'm going to go up to Effects, and we're going to go to Motion Tracking. I'm going to go down, and we're going to track motion. We don't have to really track a camera here, although you could do that, but we're going to track motion here. And it's going to bring up a little track point. It's going to open up this clip in the layer. I'm going to Option and scroll up here. So I held down Option there, or Alt on the PC, and scrolled up, and I'm going to find a point to track. His eyeball moves a little bit, so there's a little bit of a glint in his eyeball right there. Let's see if this part tracks right there. Make this a little thinner so it doesn't attach onto his eyelid as much as his eye, and I'm going to play backwards now, and let's see how well this tracks. And it looks like it's attaching to that eye pretty dang good right there, pretty dang well. So there it loses a little bit. So actually I'm going to have to find a different point to track to here. Okay, since that didn't track here, I'm going to, let's go to the bottom of his eye right here. I'm going to put it on the bottom of his eye, and I'm going to thin this out so it kind of just gets the bottom portion of the eye without grabbing the eyelid, because it's moving around on the eyelid, and the eye, we want to track it. We want it tracking to the actual eyeball itself. So I'm going to track backwards and see how this does. And that looks like it's stuck pretty good. Let's go back and take a look at that. And see, it has to stay on his eye at least until he shuts his eye. So let's see how that tracks now. And that looks like that has stayed right in that exact same spot until he closes his eye. So that is perfect. So that tracked pretty well. So I'm going to go to Layer, and we're going to do New, Null, and create a null object. And we're going to attach this tracking data to the null. So I'm going to go to Edit Target. Before I do anything else, I'm going to go to Edit Target and Edit and send that to the null right there. It's basically sending that tracking data to kind of an invisible object. So now I'm going to, now that I've got the motion target as the null, I've edited that target, I'm going to hit Apply, and it's going to say, do you want to apply it to your X and Y dimensions? Yes. And now you'll see it goes back to the composition here, and you'll see there's your null object right there, the square object with the very corner is attached to his eye the entire time there. So that tracked pretty darn well. If you wanted to, you could delete all these other points, but it won't matter because the clip's going to be invisible before after his eye shuts off. That clip will be invisible, and the tracking won't really matter anymore. Okay, so now we are going to bring in the cataract here. We'll turn on the cataract. we're going to kind of get this about the scale that we want to. I'm going to hit T for opacity, and it brings up the opacity right there. I'm going to scale, or I'm going to make this slightly invisible so I can kind of see through it right now. I'm also going to hit S for scale. It brings up the scale right there. I'm going to scale it down to about the same size. I'm going to Option, scroll here, grab this eye and drag it up and kind of drop it over his eye. And now we're going to get this outfitted so it kind of fits his eye right there. We're going to scale down a little bit more, right about there. I'm going to go to 3.5%. And this is quite a large image, so it's going to be going, these increments are moving it quite a bit. There we go. That looks like it's about the right scale. Let's go to opacity, T for opacity. Take this down to about 30%. And let's see if that's kind of fitting about the same size of his eyeball there. And it is. It's probably going to need to be a little bit bigger. So I'm going to go to scale again, S, and get that fit to the right size. Actually, after I cut this out, I'm going to be able to get it to fit a little better. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to bring the opacity back up. Go to T for opacity, 100. And I'm going to double click on the cataract layer. Shift question mark to fit that into the viewable space here. I'm going to go up and create a mask for this. I'm going to hit the square, go down to my ellipse tool, and with that layer selected, I'm going to drag a circle over the top of his eye here and create a mask for his eye, for that eyeball there. I'm going to grab the edges and kind of get it right in on the edges of the eyeball right there. It's kind of a gross image, but that's kind of the point of the movie. So there we go. Looking pretty good right about there. And now I'm going to go to my mask, feather my edge a little bit. I'm going to feather about like 5 pixels, maybe 8 pixels. We'll see how that works. And now I'm going to go back to my composition, and there's the eyeball. And now we can scale it down a little bit more. S for scale, and I'm going to go to about 4.5. Getting there. We're going to go about to 4. Let's try 4. I'm going to try 4 right about now. That's looking about the right size there. That's kind of, actually that could be a little bit bigger. I'm going to go to 4.3. There we go. Okay. Now you'll notice that this eyeball, when it's superimposed over his eyelids, you'll notice his eyeball here kind of goes behind his eyelid, and here it doesn't. We're going to fix that eventually. Right now, we're just trying to get this to track to it, and getting it, and that'll be our first step. So I'm going to go back to our cataract. Going to go under the mask, and I'm going to feather this a little bit more. Let's take this to 12, see what we get there. And that's starting to soften up a little bit. Still needs to be softer, so I'm going to soften that up even more. We're going to go to about, actually that's a lot more than I thought, so about like 70, because that's actually a huge image. It's like a 4K image right there. Okay, so now we've kind of got it in the area that we want. So now if we, you notice if we play this clip back here, notice the eye just kind of floats there because it's not, doesn't know the movement. So what we're going to do is we added all that movement information, tracking information to the null. So you're going to grab your parent pick whip here, and you're going to drag it and drop it to the null. And now it will attach to the movement of the null right there. As we move this through here, you'll notice the eye moves with the movement there. So far so good. We're only about halfway there, because right now it looks very fake. But notice the eyeball moves with the movement of his face there. Right there. So now what we're going to do, notice even when he like looks up a little bit, the eyeball moves up. So now we're going to kind of blend this in, get it to where it looks good. But so actually the next step we're going to do is to cut out his eyelids. Sound kind of gross. We're going to cut out his eyelids and put it over the top of, we're going to create a mask so his eyelids go over the top of the eyeball here. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a shape. We're going to create an animated shape that we're going to use as a mask. We're going to go to Layer, do New, Solid, and we're just going to create a black solid here. You can rename this if you want to. Whatever. I'm going to just rename it Mask Eyelid. So that's a mask eyelid right there. And I'm going to hit T for opacity, and I'm going to turn this down to about 50%. So now the black layer, the black solid layer that's over the top here, See, let me undo. It's just a black layer that's over the top. We're going to create a mask out of this that's going to use to create a mask for his eyelid here. Let's go down to 50% so we can kind of see what we're doing. I'm going to turn off the cataract right now, so that's just out of the way. I'm going to option and zoom on my mouse up to his eyeball. We're going to grab our pen tool. And the reason why I'm doing this as a black solid is because I can make that black solid use the actual same data information as the null. And it will move the mask with me, and it will save me a bit of work. So instead of creating like a motion path for this mask that I'm creating, I can just attach it to the movement of the null. So I'm going to click, drag on my Bezier tool here. This is for my pen tool here. Click, drag down here, click, drag right there, and create these Bezier curves. Click right there, and then you see that now it's cutting out the shape of that black there. I'm going to go to the edge here and just shape that so it fits the eye. Make this all fit the eye pretty good here. What's really going to matter is right here on the eyelids where it's covering the eyeball. And now I'm going to grab this shape. I'm going to get to the very end frame. Get that fitting perfect right there. We're going to soften the mask in a little bit, but right now I'm just kind of getting it approximately in the location. And I'm going to grab that whole, actually now we can grab this whole black layer here, black solid, and I'm going to parent it to the null. So now you'll notice this black layer actually moves with his eyeball as well. There's our moving mask right there. We save some time by doing this. We don't have to go through and do a motion like a rotoscope of his eye to get those eyelids to cut out over. But right here it starts kind of losing because his eyeball's lifting up a little bit and it's tracking to his eyeball. So what I'm going to do is right about there is where it starts moving out of place. So I'm going to I am going to do a little bit of rotoscoping here. I am going to go down, or a little bit of animation on the mask, I guess. So I'm going to go to the mask and turn on my mask path keyframes here. Start it right here where it starts losing track, and I'm going to page up a couple times. Grab this thing and reposition it. So it's creating this animation. A couple more times and reshape it. A couple more times, page up, and I'm going to keep doing this till it fits the eye here. And now he starts shutting his eye, so I'm going to animate this thing to shut with his eye as well. H for hand, move this up so I can see what I'm doing. Page up. Right there his eye starts shutting. So I'm going to kind of get that. We've got a bit of motion blur here as he's moving his face down, so it's going to kind of blend in anyway. And right there, is his eye closed right there? It looks like it is completely closed right there. Let's take a look. Yes, it is completely closed. So actually right there the layer can turn off. So I'm going to go down to my mask eyelid. Move down one, and I'm going to shut it off right here by holding Option and left bracket key. It creates an endpoint on my mask right there. Now watch as I go one frame up, it's gone, and right there where he opens his eye, it's there. So now it animates with his eyeball, locks to his eyeball, and now that I'm done, and it looks pretty good, I'm going to go to the opacity again, hit T, and I'm going to turn this back to 100%. So we've got this little black hole now there. It's a black solid that's in front of his eye, and it animates with his eye, and it shuts with his eye, as you see. There we go. Okay, and we're going to use that mask there to create a layer, and using that black as a mask there. So, so I'm going to go to the bottom layer, and I'm going to copy that. I'm going to grab it. It's basically this layer of him right there. I'm going to grab that entire layer, Shift question mark to zoom out here, and I'm going to duplicate it. Command D or Control D on a PC. I'm going to grab this up, and I'm going to put it on top of everything except for the black there. I put it on top of everything. So basically, I'm going to use this top layer, and I'm going to tell it to use this animated mask as a mask to see through. So watch what I'm going to do here. I'm going to go to track matte here. If you don't see track matte, you hit the toggle switches and modes till you see it. You see track matte. I'm going to tell this, the mask has to be right on top of that to use it as a track matte. I'm going to go here. Whatever's on top, you're going to tell it what to track here, and it will use the layer up above it to track here. So I'm going to tell it to use, let me turn off all these other layers so you see what's happening here as I do this. And I'm going to turn the background Right now my background's on black. I'm going to turn it to my alpha channel so you really see what's happening here. There's my alpha channel, so now you can see where there's nothing. See, and this black is not nothing. It's a black solid. That is a black solid. If you grab this, it's not seeing through. It's actually a black solid. So now I'm going to tell it to use that black solid as a, let's see, we're going to tell it to use alpha inverted, because alpha mask would just put it inside the eye. If you do alpha inverted, it cuts out the eye. And now that we're seeing through that, we can add the cataract, and we can add the rest of the eye behind that, and boom. And now you'll notice the eyelid is cutting that out. It's a little sharp, so we're going to soften up that mask a little bit. I'm going to go to my mask on my eyelid, and I'm going to just soften it up a little bit. Just soften up the edges a teeny bit so it looks natural. And we're going to feather that by, let's try 2 pixels. There we go. See that nice little feather there? Now it looks nice and natural. And let's take a look at this so far. Now if this looks good, now we're just getting the quality of that eye to match the scene that we're doing. So let's play through it. And it's looking pretty decent. It tracks to his face. You can use the same effect for zombies as well if you get like zombie eyes, and you can put them on there. Now let's do a little bit of blending and get this thing to look better. I'm going to add a couple things to this. First of all, I'm going to go to opacity on the cataract layer, and I'm going to tone it down just a little bit, 80%, so it's kind of a little bit see-through, seeing to is kind of the natural color of his eye there. Let's go to 70. There we go. That's blending in a little bit more. And I'm actually going, now I'm going to fine tune this by going to the, let's go to the cataract, and we're going to bring up the mask. And I'm going to feather the edge of the mask. Let's go to 80. So it's a little bit softer around the edge. Let's try 90. Forget this is such a large image, so it's like, takes a lot of feathering here. Just soften that up a little bit more. And now if we want to kind of match the color of his other eye, we can go to, let's go to effects, and I'm going to search under effects blue, and it has a colorized blue wash right here. I'm going to grab that and drag it to the cataract, and it changes it to kind of a blue shade. I'm also going to drag my hue and saturation, because I want to bring the saturation down on this thing. So I've changed it blue. You can actually go through and change the color, hue, and balance to whatever you need to here. But I'm going to grab just my master saturation and just drag it down a little bit. Bring it down even a little bit more. Right there, so it's just kind of, oops, that's black and white there. Just so there's a little bit of a blue hue to it. I'm going to take out a little bit of the red so it's not so purple but more blue. I had to feather that about 200% to get that to look good. There we go. Okay, now it's looking good. Now it's looking like a blue cataract. And then you can try some things with it. You can try some different blend modes if you want. You can try like a, let's try add, see what that does. See, that brightens it up a little bit. And then you can just bring the opacity down and blend that in. So let's select the cataract, hit T for opacity, and bring that down a little bit and blend it in until it starts to look a little bit natural. And now I'm just going to bring down the brightness and contrast, drag that onto the eye, and bring down the brightness. So one more thing I'm going to do here to kind of finish this up is, I notice it shifts over to the left quite a bit right there, so I'm going to fix that. I'm going to create an animation here. I'm going to go under effect, go under transform, and we're going to go to position, and I'm going to create a keyframe for the position right there to lock it. I'm going to move back once, and you can see that little shift right there. It shifts over. So I'm going to grab that and move it down. Still moves over a little too much. There we go. And that looks like it doesn't shift over so much. And right here, it needs to be blurry because it's too crisp right there. There's the motion blur around the eyes. So we can just find out where that blur happens. Let's grab a camera blur. We'll drag it onto the cataract. and we will start out, we'll put this at 0, and we're going to put a keyframe right here where the motion blur starts to happen. I'm going to go down to Effects, go to our camera blur, and under our blur radius we're going to put a keyframe right about there. And we're going to go to the beginning of the eye, right about there, and we're going to add another keyframe, and it's going to start out blurry. So it looks like a little bit of motion blur going on. There we go. So it looks like a little bit of motion blur going on, and then it'll come into better focus. So you have a keyframe there, and let's take a look at it. Hit 0 for render, let it render, and there you go. One thing to keep in mind is I'm doing this for the Telltale Heart to show cataract, but you can also do a zombie clip. I'm going to do that on one of these clips at the very end here. So do just a zombie eye, even though that doesn't pertain to this story, just to kind of show you can do it with any eye that you want, if you're doing a zombie movie or not. Okay, so the zombie eye, I'm going to replace that with a, let's show a zombie eye in the second one here. And make this eye extreme close-up. Going to import our zombie eye. And by the way, be careful what images. You shouldn't just be grabbing images off the internet and pulling it in. You should have somebody, maybe Photoshop you want if you're going to be doing this, because you can't be using people's art online just for your own commercial use. You have to get your own stuff. But let's grab this zombie eye right here. I'm going to open up that eye, and we're going to cut out a portion of this eye here. I grab that eye, drag it down the side, put it into my composition, and we're going to grab a portion of this eye. We're going to grab a portion of this eye right here. Right there, we're going to soften that mask a little bit. And we're going to be putting that over this guy's eye here. Put the rotate center right in the middle of the eye. And rotate that. And we're going to be putting it out. And this image is a little too small for what we're doing here, but it's the same concept though. Okay, so I'm going to go to the end here, and I'm going to go up to, going to change this to motion tracking. We're going to track the movement of this guy's eye here. I'm going to the end because, once again, he opens up his eyes right here. If the person doesn't open up his eyes, you won't have to go to the end. You can do it from the beginning. But I'm going to track motion, and I'm going to find a pixel that we can track, and there's a nice little highlight in his eye right there. Let's see how this does, see how this works. And expand a little bit over to the corner of the eye so it can kind of follow the motion of those pixels. And I'm going to track backwards and analyze backwards. And that seems to be tracking pretty well, right up to where he closes his eyes. That tracks pretty darn well. Let's take a look. See that? Yep, that tracks pretty good until he shuts his eye, so that's good. We're going to go to Layer and do a new null, and we're going to apply that information, that tracking information, to the null. We're going to edit target and tell it to attach it to the null. Hit OK, and apply that. Now that information has applied to the null, and now you'll see the null moving with the movement of his eye. Now we can turn on the zombie eye. So this is kind of a repeat process of everything that we've been doing so far. I'm going to go to the eye, and we're going to scale that up. I'm going to hit S for scale, and we're going to scale it up so it's about the right size. I'm going to make it a little bit larger than his eyelids. So then we're going to do the same sort of mask feature over his eyelids that we did previously to the other eye. I'm going to grab that parent, drag it to the null, and now as we play this, you'll notice the zombie eye tracks with his eye right there. And even if his eyeball moves, if it moves back and forth, this will move back and forth with it. There's no, but as he moves, if the whites move beyond where the whites are inside of his eyelid there, that might not work. So, so there's some other things you'd have to do. But I'm going to scale it a little bit larger so it kind of expands past his eyelids. And now we're going to create that mask for the eyelid that we did in the previous clip here. So if you've seen this before and you get it, fine, you can shut off the tutorial now. If not, I'm just going to show it one more time. I'm going to go to New Solid, create a new black solid. We're going to put that black solid on top. I'm going to hit T for opacity, turn down the opacity, and we're going to create I'm going to turn off the zombie eye so we can follow his eyelids and track his eyelids here. I'm going to grab my pen tool and create a mask on this solid to create it to the shape of his eyelid. There we go. And now we want that to track to the shape of his eyelid. So I'm going to get to the very end frame. Actually, we don't need to do that. I can just grab the parent now. And but yeah, you do want to get to the end frame and position your mask where it's going to end up. I'm going to grab this and pull it to the null. And now that mask will track with his eye. But we're going to have to animate it once he shuts his eye. Right there, when he shuts his eye, we're going to have to animate that. So I'm going to go to the mask, arrow down the mask, turn on the mask path, add a keyframe right there. Arrow back, and it looks like this is going to be a pretty quick animation. Please deselect that, and reselect the mask. There we go. And shut his eye. Bring the mask down. And at that point, the eye is closed, so, or pretty darn close to closed. So I can actually turn off that right on that frame there. I can do Option, left bracket, and it shuts it off on the keyframe right before, so it turns on right there. His eyes open, and do a little bit more animation just to kind of fine tune this, just so his eyelids stay over that eyeball, because it does change a little bit there. So I'm going to animate the shape here a little bit. And right there it grows a little bit more, so there we go. So that mask locks to his eyelids pretty good. We're going to use that mask to put the eyelids back over the eye. So I'm going to go to the opacity of this clip and turn it back up to 100. And I'm going to grab, so right now what we've got is, we've got the zombie eye, we've got this black solid on top here. And we've got the zombie eye below that layer. And then we've got the video right below that. So I'm going to duplicate the video, put it on top right below the black solid, and I'm going to use this black as a mask to create a mask, that hole right there. So I'm going to go to Track Matte, pull this down, and I'm going to tell it to use an alpha, create an alpha based on that black solid, and we're going to have it do inverted, which does the inside of the eye as opposed to the outside of the eye. So it's masking for the inside. So now what we've got is a video layer on top that's using that black travel matte there. Let me grab both of these together and you can see what's happening there. See, it's using that black to create a hole in the eye on top of this video layer. And below that we see the eye, and below that we see another video layer. So that's the layers that we've got there. Now I'm just going to soften the mask a little bit. Feather about 5 pixels or so. There we go. That seems to blend in okay. And now I'm just going to, now you can just work on the zombie eye. You can try different composite modes and see what you get with different composite modes. You can try turning down the opacity. I recommend turning down the opacity a little bit. Looks like overlay kind of does a cool little effect, but I'm going to turn down the opacity here of the zombie eye. And like I said, just if you experiment with different blend modes, you'll finally kind of get something that. And this, now it looks like it needs to have a little bit of motion blur like we did with the previous effect right there on the mask. I'm going to mask feather this. I'm going to animate my mask feather. Let's move down 1 pixel because I want it to be kind of clear by that point. Oops, right there. And at this point it's going to be very blurry mask right there to kind of blur it together. There we go. So it's that little motion blur that happens right there. And I'm going to do the same thing to the eye and blur the eye. There we go. We got our zombie eye, and you see his eye little twitch there. When his eye twitches, it animates with the movement. You see his eye twitch right there. And then you could also do an effect here where you grab that pupil, and you can, when it opens, you could have it stopping down like he just had his eyes shut, like his actual pupil does. If you look at his actual pupil, when he opens his eye quickly irises down there, because now the light's flooding in. And you can do that same sort of thing with the zombie eye. You could just crop that center right there. When it opens it up, just have it expanded and it irises down. And that's the basic zombie effect. It looks like it needs a little bit of touch up, but that's for the most part the effect there. You can try experiment with different composite modes and see what you get. So if you have any questions, let me know.